All right, so I'm live with 52 weeks of AWS, I'm sorry, .NET, and I'm going to dive into how to actually play around with really getting from scratch a .NET environment running with NuGet in Codespaces. And so I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen real quick, get started. And if we go here, I think the first thing that I'm going to do is just build a new one. I think it's probably better if I do that. So I'm going to say we'll call this .NET Codespaces. Looks pretty good. And we'll say this is a repo for building .NET in Codespaces. So I'm going to just tweak it out with all the things that you would want to take advantage of by using Codespaces. And to start with here, what I would want to do is go to code and I'm going to configure it. So configure and create a code space. Now it would be kind of cool if beforehand, if I could actually just build out, the dev container stuff, which I guess I could in theory, but what I want to play around with first is code spaces and NuGet, right, which is the package manager for .NET. And here we go, working with NuGet registry. That's exactly what I want to play around with here. So if I start, we can see it built pretty quick, but it didn't customize yet. So I'm gonna customize this. I'm gonna say GitHub Dark, which I like. And that now the next thing I'm gonna need to do is I'm gonna need to customize the dev container. And so what I will do is say add dev container files. Now let's look at all the definitions of things that I could build. What do I care about? I would say that I wanted to say Azure Functions in C# looks pretty good. Azure Functions in Node, or just regular C# or C# .NET and Postgres. That's community. Or C# and MySQL. I would say this one is probably what I care about. Although later, I think I wouldn't mind playing around with F# too, but let's start with C#. And let's pick this one, the defaults. And Node, do we want it? Let's sure. Now for the CLIs, I think it would be good to add the AWS and Azure. And that's it, right? So that way I can push code to either cloud, which I think I probably would want to do. Now, now that I've got this configured, it's going to put these Docker file here, which includes all the stuff that I'm going to use in the container. And then I'm also going to show how it's got some extensions loaded for me here, including AWS CLI, all this stuff. So I would say the other thing to do would be to do Copilot. I want to do nightly. I also want to do Copilot Labs. Now, let's look at NuGet. Let's look what this documentation says. It says, okay, authenticating. If I want to push things. What if I don't want to push? I just want to pull things. Publishing packages, installing packages, using packages, troubleshooting. Well, okay. Well, it doesn't really tell us a lot about NuGet. How do I use NuGet command line? That's more what I probably care about. It provides the full extent of NuGet functionality. There we go. Now, what I don't know is, does it just come with my environment? And I guess let me also look, if I look back again at the, what does it install here? It says ms.NET tools C#. Did it put that? MS C#. So we probably want that. This one. And this is by Microsoft. I think this looks pretty good. So I think I have enough here. What about NuGet? Does that come installed? NuGet. How to remove. See, I only care about lets you easily add. I'm not as interested in tools that are not official tools. Like I kind of want to use things that are the most official. So I think to start with, I'm going to just do this, and I'm going to say rebuild, right? Rebuild the container. Let's go ahead and try it out, and let's see what happens. Okay, that was actually surprisingly quick. Okay, looks like it's working. So it's installing the AWS tool, the Azure tool. That way, if I have some .NET code I want to deploy to one of those platforms, I can do it. And okay, great. So I've got this running now. What I'm curious about is NuGet. So it's installed. What about .NET? Is it installed? So .NET is installed, and if I say -- list SDKs, 6 is installed. So I really don't know anything about NuGet, but it is kind of weird that that it's not installed automatically for me. It would be nice to make it reproducible inside my code space. Let's see, NuGet Codespaces dev container. Like, does someone configure Codespaces for real projects? Okay. So what's this person saying? They're saying this will add this. This is really important. We'll find a pre-configured. This is a killer feature. That's true. But how do you add NuGet into your projects? Create a development container. Huh. Can't access a NuGet container via VS Code. Well, I think what I can do for now is just copy this and put a reference to it. I don't know if I'm smart enough to fix it yet, but we'll just say, step 1, set up your environment. So step 1 would be configure So I'm not going to do steps. I'm just going to put notes. Just say configure dev container. Now I also go back here, right? We can see there's one here. Is I could go to Codespaces and I could say set up pre-build, which will pre-build the whole thing for me, which is going to make it a lot faster, and it's going to use that default Codespaces. Now, see, I don't see why it's telling me that. If I say get status, what happens here? Status. See, I need to add dev container. Adding dev container. Okay, so that could be why it doesn't show up. So I'm gonna have to wait on that for a second because it might take a little bit of time for it to read. Configure dev container and then say add NuGet. And how would I do that? I would first run this command. So I can just, I guess, write a little script here that just says like setup.sh, and we'll put this user bin in vbash. Let's see, download the latest stable NuGet, and let's do that. And then I could say like reference this documentation, like there, and then we would alias this afterwards. So first let's run it. So chmod plus x setup. There we go. And then the next thing is that I want to add that to my bash. Love it how VI is not installed. Or Vim's uninstalled. Just the crappy VI is that is even worse to use than Vim. There you go. Create alias for NuGet and source it. Okay, so now if I say NuGet, that should work. Uh-oh, mono is not found. Okay. Linux. Why would I want to install mono? That's a great question. And if I say Ubuntu command or something, or u name -a Ubuntu 1804, so it would be that mono develop. Okay, let's try that. Let's do and then you would do this, I guess. Now install mono. Let's try that. So setup. There we go. Unable to correct problem. You have a broken package. This may be unable to correct. Huh. Let's Google that. Well, that's not looking good. I'll just put a note here, like doesn't work. There you go. So, and you can put echo. Echo doesn't work. So we'd have to come back to that later. So NuGet, we'll put still not working. What I guess I'm confused about with NuGet is what are the use cases for NuGet for most people? Like when do you want to use NuGet? If I look at this documentation right here, we can see consider adding NuGet package manager console to Codespaces. Thanks for taking the time. We'll see if we can add it. I mean, typically when I've used NuGet, it's to install third-party tools. Here we go. Blazor, test experience, expectations. We recommend using code that are solely console or library apps. So this looks like a good summary here. So this person, let's just follow his guide here. So he's saying using Visual Studio Codespaces with .NET Core, what a time to be a .NET developer. Okay, head over. Leveraging most of the stuff. That looks good. And so I guess I think a .NET Core would be fun to build. That's a command line tool. So if I look at what he's suggesting, he's saying here, I said Windows Forms Designer will not be available. How you can use C# to edit. It says entirely in the cloud, which is what we want. Consistent. Now, where is a new release? We repeat those. Head over. We initially focused on core editing, debugging at this time with your .NET Core projects. Okay, so I guess this would be if we go to the documentation for Microsoft here, and I want to look for .NET Core, and here we go. What is .NET? This is exactly what I care about, and I really care creating a .NET console using Visual Studio Code. This is more what I care about. Is this? Now I would like to know how to do the NuGet inside of Visual Studio Code in Codespaces, but I'm going to start with this. So we'll just say still not working. Okay, now next up, build .NET console app inside of new environment. So this is kind of the first thing that I would always do would be to do this, is build a new console app. So I do know I have .NET installed, and so I can just copy this, and we'll say let's make it with .NET Framework. There we go, new console app. Now I always make this mistake, is that I want to create a directory first. So I'm glad I didn't do it this time. So I'm going to say make dir demos. I'm going to cd into the demos, and I'm going to say as well make dir hello world console, and I want to change into there. There you go. Oh, I'll cd into hello world console. There we go. So we got a demo, we got this thing, and now I'm going to do the new console app. There we go. So we've got the program file right here, and if I just say here we go, required assets to build are missing .NET Codespaces. Yes, see, I was looking for you to give me more stuff, more goodies here. So it figured out something new I needed. Installed this, installed this, installed this. Wait a second, where's my dev container stuff, which is the see, it didn't even put the new apps that I wanted in here. So I want to add Copilot in here. Nightly. I want the latest, the bleeding edge stuff. There we go. And I want to add this to my dev container. I want to add this to my dev container, and we want to rebuild everything. If we look at the logs, we see this thing cooking. And so I'm going to go through here and play around with this a little bit. But it create a console app, debug an app, blah, blah. But I was curious about how to add another package to a console app, which I think would be really great to figure out with NuGet. And I don't see the documentation here in order to use that. Oh, no, here we go. Install and use a package. That I think this is what I want. Install and use a package with .NET CLI. That's exactly what I want. Aha. Use the following to install Newtonsoft JSON. There we go. This is what I want. Perfect. NuGet. That's exactly. Oh, I guess it's included to .NET. Didn't know that. Okay. Let's try to see if I can build that real quick. Okay, we got this. We got this. We got all kinds of stuff inside of here. And if I go back to this location and I cd into demos, I go into Hello World, and I just say .NET, or forget, what do you do, run? You just say Hello World. Perfect. Okay, so now let's make another one. We'll say maker, we'll call this, install package, that console. And if I cd into here, now I can follow the documentation. Now we'll say one with package. Hopefully we can do this very, very quickly. That. So this is the one I want. I want this one. Wrong one. This one right here. Installing you. Okay. So .NET new console. Is that step one? All right. And we're inside this new directory. .NET new console. Perfect. And now I want to look at it here. And we want to run this command, .NET add package. All right, let's try it out. Oh, that was easy. Okay, now I know how to do a new thing. You'll open this and you should see this. There we go. Exactly. Cool. Next up, we can do this in the program file. We want to use that third-party package. Cool. That's exactly what I was hoping to figure out how to do. Let's go here. Let's do that. We got NuGet, quick start, grade, JSON. So I guess it's a JSON library. Awesome. Now to build it, save the file and run it by doing .NET run. Okay, that's exactly what we're going to do. .NET run. And So it didn't work, which is interesting because in the Visual Open It add this at the top of the line. Oh, because I think I didn't put that in the top. There we go. That's why. Now let's try. Ooh, look at this. Excellent. There we go. So I got it working. There we go. I got the first package. That's exactly what I wanted to accomplish. And I found a tutorial. Awesome. So git status, change up a directory. Now, hopefully .NET is smart enough, Visual Studio is smart enough not to check in garbage. But I probably am going to git status. So git add demos, commit, adding demo projects. This is very promising. Oh, cool. It didn't do it. Wow, this is a very successful .NET experience here with Visual Studio Code and Codespaces and all the fancy stuff. And I know how to install packages. Great. See you next week.